To all the ladies in the place with style and grace, allow me to place these lyrical douches into mushes.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode number 11. This is me, Vignesh, and Shivank will be in the right or the left.
You changed the intro a bit, bro. You didn't say, hey guys.
I'm just excited to be back, man. It's been a while, right? So I'm just very excited to be back.
Nice.
Uh,
What else you
shit.
got today? What do we have today? What do
Well,
you got?
okay. So today, I think this is something I really did not want to do, but for the sake of the people that are watching us, I think this will be helpful for them if we do this, which is reveal our age, right? Now, a lot of people judge us. We faced a lot of challenges because, I mean, to get to the position we are in right now, I think we faced a lot of challenges. Or at least now we're okay, we're fine. But I think in the earlier stages of our life, we did face some challenges. So I thought, okay, we'll walk through the ages. So for me, I'm gonna walk through the last 5 years of my life, which is from age 20 to 25. I just turned 26 2 months ago. So yeah, I'm gonna walk through 20 to 25. Shiv, by the way, is 35. So
Yeah, I mean, you can say a lot of lies, but you look like 35 and so you are more believable on that part.
I was actually coming to it. I was just gonna come to it. I was gonna explain that in another point when we, continue the podcast. But yeah, Shiv. So Shiv is gonna talk about his last 5 years, which was from 21 to 26. And I think the reason why we are doing this is because I know for a fact there are some youngsters watching us as well. So we thought this might be helpful for them. Or this will be useful to anybody watching us, but it's the mindset and the thought process and the experience that we want to share to show what we did differently and what you guys can do as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, so bro, it's been so long, right? The flow is like it's a bit tough to get in sync. But anyways, yeah. So what I had in mind was like I have my own list of whatever stuff I went through. You have yours as well, right? So do you want to go one by one, or you want to go like you at once tell the whole piece, and I go at once and tell my whole piece?
I think let's start. I mean, that's a good question. I think you start with your story first, man. Let's see how it goes, right? So let's see if I can put it somewhere as well.
Okay, fine. So I okay. Let me begin. So in my case, it's basically that I mean my first job was in Dubai. Okay, so I started my career in Dubai. I never worked in India or anywhere else.
Mm.
It started from Dubai, and it was a very rough market to begin. The job search and trying to figure out something. It was like I hated this market. I literally hated this market. I didn't like it at all. So the reason is that I was a bit. It was bit more easier for me to get something in India versus getting over here because they need UAE experience or Middle East experience, and a lot of variables comes in play, like learning, like maybe knowing Arabic, and if you need to have certain skill set, which I don't have because I'm a fresher, right? So it was a bit tough back then. So when I see that part, like entering the space, okay, entering the whole country and trying to figure something out, in that I really got lucky when I got into Unilever because that was one of the major pieces where I learned how a business runs, what is expected from me. I had a manager called Keshav. He's now the director of Unilever International in Europe. So he is the director there. So he's that time he was a manager to me. So I learned a lot from him. So I'll give you a background of how this guy was. He was a very like old school guy, but like he will make sure that he screws up your life. Like you will feel that pain in working with him, but he'll grow you a lot in that sense. And since I was new, it was a bit tough for me, but I was like I didn't have a choice. I had to work, so I went through that whole piece. So in that whole process, right, there was one time when he called me to his. He was in a meeting room. He called me over there. I sat inside, and he's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, working over here. What I was coming in. So he told me that uh, no one is over here saying, like Shivang sir is sitting over here. Let me go and give him some more work. Let him, let me think that let me go to Shivang sir and think about what else can he do. He said, no one will give a fuck about you. You need to make sure that you are the one who figures things out. Like, what do you want? You put yourself out, go and talk to people and get things rolling. Because no one is over here just to, just thinking about you or whatever you're doing. So that was one of his ways to highlight that part, that you're doing work, but I mean, you don't need to push yourself out and be more uncomfortable to get things happening. So that was like kind of like the point where I understood like how this works out. So after that, certain ways I built things like where I used to, let's say, read books and consume certain knowledge. How can I grow within work? That is one. Talk to certain people who I actually believe they're actually doing good in the same company, understand from there, pick their point of view. So that was the beginning, like that is the foundation of how things started shaping up in my mind. Because if this idea wasn't there, like it was a bit tough for me. Because I mean, I would still sit, yeah, I'll work my stuff and I'll believe that okay, things will come to me, but it doesn't work that same way in the corporate world. So that is one part. The other part is about visibility. So there's one more lady who joined, our team. Same in Unilever back then. Like since we're talking about that time frame of like 20s and stuff when I joined, I'm going back to the Unilever days. So within Unilever, there's a lady who joined. Her name was Mariam, and like she was joining from a different department. Okay, and she was a person who has achieved a lot for her age group. Like she was the I think one of the youngest managers. Who was appointed. So when she joined in, I was trying to see, how she roams around because I was still executive, I was still at the junior level, and she actually got in and trying to understand, read the whole room. She called me, tried to understand from me how things work because I knew it because I was ground level. She knew that. Then one time we had a conference, and I think there was like a yearly conference. Everybody was showing the numbers, how good everything was, what's moving, what's not moving. At that time, she was new. Okay, there was a Q&A session. She didn't have anything to contribute, but she still stood her hand. She said something complimenting whatever is happening. Like it was a very nice meeting, getting together, blah blah blah, same stuff. But she pitched herself in that conference. The way she did it was she said that it's a very nice conference, blah blah blah, and I had done this in the past, so I think this experience can be used in this way. That's it. He just did that, and I mean, after that, it was done. Then the Q&A was happening, and everything happened. And later, I went and just spoke to her, like like it was nice to know, like, did you think of it earlier, or just said it randomly? She said that there is planting a seed. That's the visibility seed. I was like, okay, what is that? So she gave me a perspective of what visibility is. Like she said that okay, you put your work out to people. Okay, this is what you work to your manager, blah blah blah. But these kind of forums or events, that's the visibility for yourself, your own brand as well. So you have to make sure you not just show it online or whatever work you're doing, but offline as well. You need to put that seed out, showing that if there's a right person sitting in the room and they see that you've done that in the past, there's a new project which can come to you and you can shape that up.
True.
So you plant that seed, and then that's how I understood that. That's why they say capitalize every opportunity. Because unless I knew this, I would have not known how to do it. So now, if I get a chance, and I believe I have something, something to say, and I can pitch something, I just bring that back, put it in, and see if it works out. Maybe a lot of times it doesn't work out as well. It's just a useless piece of information. But if the right audience is sitting there, it gets picked up. So yeah, that's I think that's one of the foundation for me of how this whole piece was built up, how visibility got in picture, how I understood what is the game like. I need to go and reach out to people, learn stuff. That defined the initial days of what set me apart. So that is the foundation. Now, in terms of the age part, since we're talking about age, after Unilever, I joined another company, right, where I had to lead people as well after a couple of years. So now the problem was age because I had people who were older than me as well. So that I know you also faced that issue, right? And then I mean, we had similar thoughts we discussed as well. So for me, I mean, how it worked out was that since I know my job, like I know I'm good at my job, so I know that I know things in and out of that piece. How I developed this part is I know my job. I know how the business works. I know what is required for the business, and I know what is good for the business. Okay, when these three ticks were happening, it was easier for me to shape other things up. It can be any human problem or whatever problem happens. If it's in these three lines, it's easier for me. They can come and say, you know what, you don't have a kid, you don't have this, you don't have that, and like I can fine, I have empathy for you, but this is how the work is supposed to be. Supposed to be your personal life is different, work life is different. Within work life, this is what's going to happen. It's easier that way. So that mindset takes a while to come in, and you have to differentiate these two parts. And I think it recalibrates, it automatically calibrates the whole piece. If they know that, okay, you're leading the team and this is how it's set, eventually the whole piece shapes it up. So that way, it's I believe that it just naturally shapes up. You just have to give it some time, define those ground rules of how it's like how you're going to lead it. Be very transparent, because I was very transparent. I like to keep things straight. I don't like to beat around the bush. If the promotion happened tomorrow, I'll just go and talk to the person, and I was like, okay, this has happened. What do you think about it? What can be done better? It's like we are a democracy over here. We can make our own version of things. So I just want to keep it we are all together in this piece. So that's something which worked out for me. But yeah, in short, these are the stuff which worked out for me. What about you?
Shivang Ramaswamy. Oh God. No, for me, what it's very interesting that you said empathy, because you would not believe it. I actually wrote down empathy here as well. It's like,
Okay.
because that shows, I think, why we are where we are, right? Not saying we are at the biggest level, but at least we are on the right path. And it shows us why, because there are few attributes that are very common for a person to go through their hardships. So, like Shiv said, I'm just gonna walk through my last 5 years as well, from 20 to 25. Just the key moments. What struggles did I face? What did I do different? How did I not just do different, but how did I overcome the whole thing, right? So, now the first thing I actually wanted to experience is, I mean, wanted to talk about what I experienced was with my internship, right? So I was 20 years old when I actually started my internship, and I've always watched these movies and the people dressing up for corporate, the suits, the cars, and they drive, they pick up the kids, and I don't know, there was something always fascinated me about that life. So I said, okay, I'm gonna live the work life now. I don't care about studying. And people who've listened to my podcast before know that I don't have a good track record when it comes to school. But I was always fascinated with people dressing up, going to work, earning money, doing adult stuff, right? I always wanted to be an adult, so I said, okay, I'm going to put myself in the work environment now, be extremely professional, be one of those guys who would deliver this and that. I go to the first day of work, and I start calling everybody, hi sir, hi ma'am, hope everything is well. They're like, whoa, 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 who's the ma'am here, who's the sir here? Because I was 20 at that time, people were 26, 27, right? So for them, they're like, yo, who the fuck is this guy, man? He's coming and asking ma'am and sir to us. And I was like, they're like, no, just call me by my name. I was like, oh, I was told to, because in my mind, respect the elders at work, it's all about, it's just like, they're like, no, 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 just call me my first name. I was like, okay. And that was my first lesson. I was like, okay, fine. This is something which you can't learn outside. So I was like, that showed a little bit of, okay. This is my first internship, so it showed me as a kid immediately, because now when you say surname, you already put them on a pedestal there, right? And that showed that I'm the new kid in the block. So I was like, fuck. Okay, this is something which I did not want. I wanted to be professional, but turns out I was being a different kind of professional in a different environment, right?
That's
And
very
then
common though. Just to mention that part of sir and ma'am, it's very common because even I did the same thing. I mean, since we're talking about that piece, and I know so many people who do that, because it's like they ask you to do the same piece like in university and stuff, but then the moment you get out, it becomes a different piece. Remember I mentioned to you about Shaheen, who I had a story about when I called him sir and he said something. I mean, we can say it out loud over here. I mean, it'll take 2 minutes of time. It's like basically, since we need to talk about sir and ma'am, there's a kind of mentor I had from Samsonite. He's the CEO of Samsonite Middle East now. So, when I was an intern over there, I called him sir multiple times, okay, after I joined. And then he was like, don't call me sir. I'm like, but I don't feel like I'm respecting you enough. He said that don't respect me with your words, respect me with your actions. I'm like, what a dialogue, man. Imagine, so he said that then, it's still stuck with me now. And then, he has those kind of dialogues. So after that, I stopped calling anyone sir or ma'am. I'm like, my actions will talk, and then after that, it's like a different flow. But that was something which is different. Yeah, you back
No,
over
no,
to you.
no, that's a good thing because no, some companies do require you to call them sir and ma'am. I completely agree because it depends on what kind of background they're from. Are they traditional or they trendy or they tech? You know, that a lot of factors
Yeah.
come in, but generally, it's about scaling the environment first, right? So yeah, that's something which I did not do. So that immediately put my poster as new kid in the block. Everybody knew it. But you know what happened that day was it was my second day, right? And I'm talking to these guys. They're all sitting on their laptops. They're working, and I'm like, okay, this is adulting. How do I, what do I do? I don't know what to do. How do I talk to the CEO? And this and that. And I was like, okay, fine. Now who's my team lead? And then there was a fire alarm. Everyone ran outside. And I'm being extremely professional, right? I'm like, okay, no, you're an adult environment now. Be an adult. Don't be like, help me. Don't go like that. You have to get up, be calm, be stoic, be like, okay, I have to get out of the door, help everybody. I'm trying to be mature as fuck. We all go down there, and there's like 2, 3 planes just flying on. Everyone in the office was just down there saying, oh wow, man, look at it, there's a plane going on. Oh, you see, there's something, and they start gossiping. And I was like, yo, what the fuck is this? That's when I realized a lot of us, we tend to be kids because when we enter the environment, we think it's completely different from what we know, but they are humans as well at the end of the day. They're just evolved humans who hide their kids inside themselves. But it's about knowing it that separates you from being a young kid in the block to an experienced veteran. Because an experienced veteran knows at the end of the day, okay, when it comes to work, these guys deliver. Personally, I don't give a fuck what you do, right? So this is something I learned. That's when the whole, because I showed you the Dana White video, right? He's like, as long as you have the savage inside you, you can eat the fuck out of anyone alive. So that's when I understood that point. Because at that time, I didn't know how to quantify it. But now thinking back, when I was 20, I was like, shit. Because at that time, I realized, okay, with the work ethic and the fire and the motivation I have inside, I can fucking do this, right? So then, what happened was, I was like, okay, now the next step is they've given me work. At that point, I thought that work was amazing, which is just take some leads, put it on Excel, and they're like, the company depends on you. Of course, people were fucking around with me, but I was like, shit, okay, taking it and copying it on Excel is like it's important. I have to do this. And I was doing that work, and then I think it was a 3-month internship. I think at the second week, I was like, I think I'm getting fucked around here. I don't think this is changing the company in any way. I mean, it was. I'm not saying it wasn't. It was. But for me personally, for what I was there to experience, it was not for me. So I said, okay, now as a young kid in the block, what am I going to do different? Then I saw these guys. I understood they're all just here to work. They're 9 to 5. But I was like, guys, it's our business. We have to take it up. They're like, yo, what the fuck are you, man? You're not getting paid enough for this. I was like, that is true. But you got to do your work, right? They're like, this kid, man. And they immediately put me down because one, I did not have the experience as them. Two, I did not have the knowledge as to how the business works. Three, I did not have any point to convince them as to why we should do things different. So I was like, okay, fine. What do I do now? Then I started coming up with ideas as to what we can do. But the thing is, I was too optimistic because as a kid, you think the world is yours, right? So I started coming up with different ideas. I'm like, oh, we can do this, we can do that, we can reach fucking America, we can do this. They're like, yo, whoa. The first, we don't have something called the budget to do something like this. Secondly, the audience we have is different. I'm like, okay, you know what I mean? So that immediately shows you. But the thing that changed my whole traction in that job was okay, after I learned that, I did something which these guys never did, which is understand what can be done different in the business. Start observing. So I sat there and I was like, okay, see how the dynamics is between the team and the boss and what are they, who's saying what to whom, who's doing what work. And I observed a lot of different things. And then I went to the CEO directly and I said, I think if we do it this way, that way, this will happen. And it was not just me saying it out of my fucking ass, but it was more like there's a backing up to it. There's a data that backs up to everything I said. I said, oh, because I watched YouTube videos of this startup and this guy was telling me, and that's when I started following your Tony Robbins. And 2017, who else was I following in 2017?
So
I
you
think
did
I
internship in 2017.
yeah.
Okay.
So this is when I think I was following Gary Vaynerchuk, Tony Robbins. Yeah, it was those guys, right? Then you have your random motivation stuff on YouTube going on. I don't remember the names though, but
Okay.
yeah, that's when I started listening to those guys. So I was trying to put those kind of points across, and I was like, yeah, these guys are doing it that way. In the US, they do this, that. Why can't we try this? And then I was like, okay, you know what? This guy makes sense, man. Then they started listening to me. Now, because I got some knowledge backing up my claims.
Hmm.
And then I was like, yeah, for example, this lady there, she's doing that work, but she has the skills to do this as well. So why can't she do that as well? So in that way, now we're managing budget. And they were like, oh shit, man. Yeah, it makes sense. Then I realized, okay, I might be a new kid on the block, but if you're able to back up your claims with data and your conviction as to what should be right, I think they'll not underestimate you. Now, again, I'm not saying you'll be right. You have to put yourself out there and you have to fuck up. Because I fucked up a lot. I said, oh, this lady can do that. And turns out she was not good at the job. They're like, motherfucker, we listen to you. And you fucked me up. And I was like, I'm sorry. I'm just kidding. So you need to know when to play that card as well, right? But yeah, that is something which I learned from that internship. And moving on, because from that, then came the company which Shiv and I worked together in. We're a different environment. But there, the way I gave my interview was, what can I say? It was more like I was being very cocky. Instead of them saying, thank you so much for coming, I was like, thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much for interviewing me. It was more like, you know, thanks for valuing my time kind of attitude because I thought I was good enough because I did some fuck all internship. I was so enthusiastic as a kid, right? So I was like, okay, again, the thing is, once you go into an environment, yeah, you have a little bit of an understanding, but you still think everything is possible, right? So that I think showed my immaturity a little bit, which I struggled with earlier because all my ideas were too optimistic, but I did not have a way of how you're going to achieve those ideas. Now, what I learned in the internship was, yeah, minute things you can come up with, like, small stuff. But now you're talking about grand scale things where they're going to trust you and put money on something. Now, if they're going to put money on something that you're talking about, what evidence, what proof do you have that it's going to work? What's your conviction on it? Who have you seen? Who have you not seen? So many questions come in. Now, if someone with an experience would be like, yeah, I mean, my previous company, the last 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, I did this, this, this. What experience do you have? Oh, wait, you're a kid. You don't know
Hmm.
what the fuck you're talking about. You listen to me. I know this will not work out. Just go sit, do what you're told. Now, at that point, I was like, shit, okay. Because, I mean, I thought I had backed it up with enough proofs, but I have not. But I was like, okay, what can I do? Now, I started looking at the attributes of the experienced veterans in the company. What are they talking about? Okay, what kind of systems they put in place? What are they expecting? Why are they working for this? Like, why are they working in this environment? What is the job that what does this whole thing mean to them? Why are they who they are? When I started questioning that, I started talking to all the seniors, like you said, you started talking to all the older people, and then I started learning from their mistakes. Okay, this is what they did. This is what they fucked up with. This is what they did not fuck up with. This is what worked out for them. This is what the company expects. And then my mind started cultivating into a mindset of, okay, if this was my own company, what would I do? Would I come up with questions like this? No, I would think twice, right? I would always think twice before saying anything because when you're a kid, you just get to run your words through for nothing. But I think you need to think twice. That'll actually show you, okay, do I sound like a kid? Do I sound normal like an adult? So that happened, and in that company, they use Slack a lot, right? So I used to participate on Slack so much because I used to go to every single fucking channel and see what they have, what they're talking about, different aspects of the company, this and that. Yeah, I couldn't contribute any ideas or any points in a major way, but at least I understood how the business worked and I was able to have conversations with a COO or a CEO as to what's happening. So they're like, okay, this guy is aware of what's happening in the company. Now it's about building on it. Now it's about looking at their vision, looking at what they're doing. This, I would feel, is something that would differentiate you from being a new kid on the block to someone who's very serious about work, right? This. So here I faced a little bit of, you can say, the hardship because finding out all this, yeah, I'm saying it in a very easy way in a podcast in like 2-3 minutes, but going through it is something else. Going through it, figuring it out. So, I said figuring it out, sorry, my bad. So the thing is, I have 10 points, which I would talk about at the end, which gives people an idea as to what they can do to immediately make sure they're not like, in the back. So I'll actually talk about it later. But Yeah. So basically, that's when you start putting some sort of ideas out. You start saying, okay, what is the right thing to say here? Case the environment and then say what you have to say. So I started doing that in Slack channels, which caught the attention of the CEO. So he was like, okay, this guy is being active. And he came on a meeting and he told everybody in the meeting, guys, I want you to be like Vignesh, be more active. Now, the thing is, I wasn't working hard at all, right? I was just working smart. Now, there were people who were working 10, 15, 16 hours a fucking day, right? Just to show that they're an adult, they're more experienced, they're there for the business. But I felt that was never me. I can do the same job which I do in a 10 hours in a 2 hours. It's all about working smart, how are you going to do it, the impact you create, right? So this is something you learn, and you only learn this by watching others, watching people experience than you, watching people who are doing it right, watching people who are doing it wrong. You have to put yourself out there to understand that, to differentiate yourself from being a kid, right? This is something which I learned in that company. Now, the next company is when I became the CEO elect, interviewing people, managing a team, needing a visibility aspect, like you said, and fuck me over shit. I'll be very honest, because even in the interview, they're like, they gave me an interview, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to contribute this way to your company. I'm going to do this and that. They're like, oh, you want to become a CEO, huh? And then they're like, oh, by the way, when were you born? I was like, 1997. They're like, ha, you're a fucking kid, man. And they start laughing. I was like, yo, what the fuck is this? People are laughing at my face in the interview. And I was like, yeah, I'm not a kid. I mean, at that time I was 23, I think. Yeah, 23. Now I understand. Okay, I see where they were coming from. But at that point, I was like, I'm not a fucking kid, man. Take me seriously. I have interesting ideas. But then no. Of course, they treat you like a kid. They're like, ah, yeah, see, I'm only giving you this job because you're a kid. If you are talking to me like how you did, if when you're 29 or 28, I would have fucking fired you before even giving you the job. But I'm giving you this because, at the end of the day, even though you're a kid, but, it's fine. So I was like, okay, again, the whole thing comes in, you're just a kid. I was like, okay, what am I going to do here? And that's when I was like, okay, now at least I have some sort of experience, and I've started talking to a lot of adults who's done it. So I've learned from their mistakes, and I've understood that, okay, the patterns are the same. Once you put yourself out there and you start seeing how different companies functions, the pattern is the fucking same when it comes to humans, companies, no matter what the fuck it is. You identify the pattern, relate it to something you heard of, and try putting a solution in it, and trust me, you will become a different person. Even your brain matures faster, and the way their system looks at you will be completely different, right? And so basically, I started doing the same thing. I started going in, and I was like, okay, they're going to treat me as a kid. The only thing I can show them that I am much more than a kid mentally is by telling them exactly what I can do. This is what I call the Conor McGregor model, right? So it's more like, say what you're going to do and fucking do it. So when I walked in, right, it's like I was telling them, I was like, listen, two things. One, I'm gonna get this fucking money that you expect from me, and two, what you're doing there is not right. If this fucking idea was there, you can work it that way, then it'll work out. They were like, this guy just openly said this at my like, and the guy who came up with another idea was in the top position in the company. He was like, this guy just came and told me that my idea is not gonna work. Who the fuck is this guy, man? And he says he's gonna be no. I was just being cocky. So they're like, okay, let's see. Now, all I have to do after that is just make the action work. And once the action works, you only elevate yourself from different people, because everybody talks. Everybody wants to make the billions. Everybody wants to become something big, but they never fucking back it up. You even do 30% of something to back it up, bro, it's fucking sorted, right? So I did that. Now, how did I do that? Like I said, I kept talking to people who have done it, started networking, seeing and understanding things, started watching a lot of podcasts. And like whatever we spoke about in the previous episode, every single thing matters for you to mature yourself. Now, even something as a car crash channel, right? This is something which I told you. You see how people get hit from different directions, and when you're driving, you realize that, fuck, okay, this can happen to me. Now, this is something which a guy who's driving for 10 years might know, but you already know it because you watched a particular fucking video. That the way you observe things matters as well, right? So yeah, that is something which I did. And something else which I wrote down, which is very interesting as well, right?
Wait,
Yeah.
so before you go, right? So normally you mentioned the cockiness part. So do
Yeah.
you build that and then go to interviews or anywhere, or this like now it comes naturally to you? Like what was up
Now,
with that?
see, at that time, the cockiness comes because I always know that I will be a good addition for the business no matter what.
Okay, but
I
there
might not
should
have
have
the
been,
knowledge.
right? You said I will be. It's like you don't know you are that already. So
Yeah.
the cockiness can come when you know already, but yours is before that. So why is that?
No, the thing is, technically, when you say I will be a good addition to this business, that means you know you will be.
Okay. Okay. So you're future proofing. You're saying okay, that's a commitment you're giving them. Is what you're saying.
Like I said, it's the Conor McGregor model. You say
Mm.
what you're going to do, right?
Yeah.
So Conor
But
McGregor said openly that I'm going to win this belt. I'm going to become a millionaire. I'm going to be in this Forbes, this and that. And his action backs it up. You just have to
it's
put
a
it out there.
conscious call, right? You make a conscious call of doing this.
True.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, like I said, that conscious call of being cocky helps. And it's good that you said that because it gives me a good segue for the next point, which is once I joined that company and I understood all the gaps that's there, I had to see what the characteristics of a leader is. Now, people say you have to be a born leader, which I would agree to an extent, but I also believe that you can develop at least 60% of a leadership quality by understanding how it works, right? So I started reading up on leaders who've made it. How do they make it? What is the company like? What do they do different? What are the attributes? And I started developing those attributes. Now, the moment I started doing that, it started giving me an edge over everyone else, right? And it started showing that okay, once you're very self-disciplined, you become more professional. Like your professionalism increases, right? All this contributes to you becoming. You might be a 25, like I said, I might be a 25, 26 year old, but the way I've consumed my content is from people who've made it already. I've already lived through their journey by watching them. So you already pick out what's working, what's not working, and you apply it to yourself, and then that ages you mentally at least. I truly believe in that. And plus, coming back to the point which we both were saying, Shiv and I, we both look old. Like that, I think also adds to the whole facade of, you
I
know,
think I don't, right? People say I look my age. It's just you who's the
fuck
problem.
off, bro. You look fucking 30, and I look fucking 35 or so. You have to be very self aware about who you are, yeah? So, yeah, like I said, characteristics of a leader that helped. And entrepreneurship is, I literally put this point. You see, I put entrepreneurship is the key component in corporate to show who you are. Now, when I mean corporate, it can be business. I mean like business, offices, anything. In the adulting world, entrepreneurship, which means adopting someone's or the company's vision. Now, I was giving this example to you and someone else now. The best way I can come up with this in real life terms is let's say there are two kinds of parents, right? Shiv, are you yawning?
No, bro. Carry
What's
on.
it? Yeah, it's a late night podcast, guys. That's why.
Yeah, man. It's like it's so you to make sure the struggle is real, right? It's more authentic this
You
way.
guys know you're hustling hard. So
Yeah.
yeah. So there are two kinds of parents. One who have like they have their own baby. Another one they adopt another baby, and at the end of the day, grow that baby into becoming something else. Now in Dubai, it's very hard for you to start your own business if you're someone like us, who's trying to make it from scratch with no daddy's money, mommy's money, no funding, and it's very hard to get that kind of money and sustain in Dubai, right? Because you have your cost and everything. So for us, we cannot have our own child, so we have to adopt a kid. In terms of business, we cannot have our own business, so we have to adopt someone else's business vision. But we put our own spin to it. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if it's your own kid or adopted child, as long as the child reaches the destination that it has to reach, you've done your part. And you will get rewarded and you will reap the rewards. So I believed in that model, so I said, okay, fuck it. At this point, I'm just going to adopt and see what I can do. So once you do that and you wake up every morning and think, okay, if this is my business, would I do this? Would I not make this decision? Would I talk to this person that way? Would this person even exist in my current business environment if this was my own business? When you start thinking this way, that ages you as well. That matures
I
you.
think there's one part which you're missing though. So you're talking about the second step. The first step is you accepting. So you mentioned the part where you accept the other kid, right? And then you adopt that kid. So before that, there's still a dilemma for you. Like if I'm a fresh guy right now, 22 years old, I don't want to fucking adopt someone's kid. I want my own kid. Okay. So that whole phase of going through this, like like I can still get my own kid to adopting it. That phase is something which no one talks about because that's a very mentally it's a very tough phase to accept certain things as well, right? The entrepreneur sounds more cooler than entrepreneur, to be honest. Like in this whole world, if you search for the whole search volume on Google as well, entrepreneur is more. It's more popular. It's more cool. It's more fancy. It's everything more. So in the culture which like that, it's tough to navigate it mentally as well, is what I was trying to say. So what do you think about that piece?
What you're saying is right, but the fact that you even have to think about if this business is something I want to adopt or not ages you,
Okay.
matures you. I believe in that because not a lot of people even think that point. They just come, do their work, do it for the money and go. But once you think a step beyond and say, do I want to adopt this kid? Or do I want to adopt this business? Is this for me? The fact that you question yourself there, your brain will start thinking. Then you'll start breaking it down. You'll start going through a different checklist as to what makes this business ideal for me or doesn't. That gives you a clarity. Now, a lot of people in this world lack clarity, right? I think the more clear you are, the more mature you are. And how would you be clear? By asking questions. How, why, is this for me? Like you said, that the whole phase of going through that only happens if you question yourself. So my whole point is question it, right? The moment you question it and you start thinking, even for a kid, I want to become a billionaire. Beautiful, man. How? What do you think you can do? Uh, exactly. You don't have no fucking idea.
Mm.
Think. The fact that you start putting that fucking thought process out and start thinking, that ages you. That's my whole point. That gives you that edge over the others that you're looking for, which immediately shows that you are someone better, even though you're young, because you put that out there, right?
Yeah.
So I think that did I answer your question? I hope I did.
Yeah, it's a bit tricky because it's not
No,
like.
but you know what? You know what? Let's
Yeah.
actually the next episode we do. Let's break it down. That's actually a good idea that you've said. We'll actually break it down next episode as to how to find out if this is a baby or a business that you want to adopt, or this is a baby or a business you want to start.
Yeah.
We'll have that in the next
But
conversation.
that's a very, I think that's why I just crossed my mind right now that nobody talks about that piece, like,
True.
because everybody talks about the other part of, just quit your 9 to 5 and just start your own stuff. What the fuck are you doing in the 9 to 5? Okay.
Yeah.
That's the narrative which is everywhere. But what about this part? Like, nobody talks about this part. Like, how did they feel the, my,
Fucking, we will talk about it, bro. We will talk about it next episode.
yeah, and plus, let's say whoever runs, let's say even Microsoft, Google, like who's running it, there should be top 50, 100 people, who are driven so much to run the business. Those guys are still there. Like this audience is still there who's doing this kind of stuff. It's just that the visibility isn't that enough, so it doesn't, it doesn't seem as cool or fancy. So yeah,
Agreed. We'll talk about it.
yeah,
I think. All right. I'll say one last point, which happened to me, which people can learn from. So when I interview people, right, they don't know my age, and I've interviewed people who are younger than me and people who are like twice my fucking age. Like I interviewed people who are 50, and man, it was nuts. Hearing different story, judging them with knowing that okay, you don't have the experience, but you have the understanding of how people work and how a business works and how talent works. Does this skill fit this particular role in this particular business for it to work? That's the only question I had. So with that, I was learning. So the few people I've hired after I've interviewed them, and they come on and find out my age, they're like, "Yo, what the fuck? This
mm,
kid interviewed me," and they start feeling bad, bro. I'm like, "Why are you feeling bad? Just
mm,
because I'm younger than you doesn't mean that you're shit. It's just I've put in more work to become better." So yeah, if you're feeling shit for that reason, I completely agree. But don't feel shit that okay, this guy is just young, this company is fucked up. Do not judge a company. Even a lot of people judge a company right now. In
yeah,
fact, the reason why I'm a CEO elect and not a CEO yet is because of my age. Because they said, which is reality, I have to accept it in the public market. When they say, okay, this company is run by a 26-year-old who just started working in this industry 3 years ago, doesn't make sense.
mm,
We don't see a growth. There's no story. So the story has to build. So I said, okay, fine. This is another lesson I've learned. And I will talk about another episode when that's the certain thing I'm going through right now, which is why I will not put the podcast out. But once I go through it and I come out of it, I will tell you guys exactly what I did, how I did, and then the story develops, right? But yeah, that is one point, which is after knowing someone, like after someone has a respect for you in an interview and then it goes down, how can you get it back, right?
yeah,
So that was the interesting thing that I had to go through as well. This leads to my next point, which is like I was talking about earlier, the key things to be young, but things that you can do to be respected in the corporate environment, even if you're young, right? And these 10 points, oh wait, did I put 10? 8 points. These 8 points are extremely important, and I hope if you guys are there, you can write this down, or we'll put it as YouTube shorts or whatever the fuck it is. This will be important, right?
I'll have one as well. Yeah, I have one more to add to your list.
Go
I
on.
mean, so the last one. I mean, keep it the last one. So which I normally do for myself is a lot of times you don't get clarity when you're starting out fresh and you work for a year or two. You don't know what's next for you, right? Like you have to depend on your manager to tell that, or have a department or whoever. Sometimes the clarity isn't that good. Maybe the manager isn't good enough. Maybe something else is blocking. So what I used to do is I used to treat LinkedIn as a window shopping mechanism. Okay, LinkedIn for window shopping, you go and check out CVs. I mean, sorry, the job descriptions. Okay, you go and type the same role you're doing, and what is the manager doing? What is the head of department doing? I used to just window shop like that. Pick the task or something which is written in that. A certain job descriptions you'll see, able to handle XYZ, or so that is something I used to pick, collect it in my Google Keep, and I used to be like, this is what I need to learn now. So I used to keep window shopping that, just keep adding that list. I don't know what to do next. So that I used to do personally, and whatever stage I'm in, if I'm stuck, I go back to LinkedIn, check these job descriptions, pick, collect, and make my list and I know what to do next. Once I collect that, I move on to the next role. So within my, even if I'm promoted or not, like promotion or no promotion, I know I've got the skill and I'm learning everything. So I keep myself moving that way. So
The,
yeah,
like you said, it's the mindset. You, even though you don't have the role, you are already living the role.
correct. And plus, I know what direction I go for now. Like, no one comes and tells me what to do. So I go on LinkedIn and see what is the company expecting. So that
Good.
way I get to know like what's new in the market as well. What's actually working and people are hiring for that. Maybe TikTok has come in and I'm 60-year-old right now and I see a job description talking about TikTok. I'm like, what the fuck is this TikTok? I learned TikTok. So I'll be a 60-year-old learning TikTok while nobody else in the market knows it. You see, that kind of stuff keeps helping in this sense.
Agreed. That's why I put that also. So what I'm going to put is, okay, the 8 key points that can help you differentiate yourself and be unique, even though you're young in a corporate environment. Right?
Yeah.
Point number 1, be fucking charismatic. Don't know what charisma is? Fucking Google it, because I'm not going to waste my time here. Because it's not some class, right? Be charismatic. No matter what you do, find the attributes of how to be charismatic, because that automatically will tell you what you need to do better than who you currently are, which will mature you, right? 2, talk to experienced people and learn from their mistakes early on, because the more old people you talk to, let's say in a range of, let's say, 25 to 30, 35 to 40, 45 to 50, 55 to 60, 65 to 70, it gives you a different perspective on different problems. Now, what do I mean by different problems? Because it gives you an understanding, like that goes to my third point, which is empathy. It gives you an understanding of the real world situation, right? Bankruptcy, divorce, breakup, priority. I don't know, a lot of different aspects come in. Now, I'm not married. I never know what a divorce is like, but because I am surrounded by a lot of females in the office who go through that kind of stuff, it gives me a perspective as to what they did wrong in the
What kind
relationship.
of office is this, bro? It's a different experience you're getting.
Like I said, right, at the end of the day, it matures me, because now I'm able to advise a 45, 50-year-old couple who are going through a divorce, saying that, oh, this is my experience, is what they did different. Maybe you guys can try that out. The fact I'm able to talk to that person, right? Like, and someone goes through bankruptcy, okay, why?
Hmm.
Oh, I bought this house there, that house there. I couldn't pay my credit card bills. Wife wants to go out. I want to go out. So you learn so many different things from talking to so many different people about the real world. That all culminates into one word: empathy. Have empathy towards someone, understand their story, see what they did wrong, what they did right. Just be curious. So that will help you. The fourth point, which is the most important point here, is emotional intelligence. Cultivate emotional intelligence, because that will differentiate you from being a matured adult and an immature kid. Even though you're 25, but if your emotional intelligence is very high, you'll be able to talk to a 60-year-old, and the 60-year-old will be very comfortable sharing their life story with you and talking to you like a friend. Because all the people I have right now who are older than me, they talk to me like a brother or a friend. They don't look at me as a kid who needs help, right? Yeah, there are a few instances, but that's how you learn. But majorly, everyone has a kid inside, and they love seeing that kid inside. But they also know when shit comes, when push comes to shove, you need to be that adult. And that can only happen if you're emotionally intelligent, right? Stoicism. That's what I mean. Follow stoicism, understand what it is, it'll help you. And then conviction by evidence to back you up. I have a conviction. I want to tell them, listen, this strategy will not work. Why will it not work? Have an evidence to back it up because this person has tried that or this company has tried that and this has failed. If we do it in a different way, this will work out with the current strategy we have because of this. Make sure you have some sort of evidence to back up anything you fucking say so no one can crucify you, right? And number 6, show them how it is done instead of just whining and moaning, right? Show them. Now, you're sitting in a team. My manager's being a piece of shit, man. She's not doing that work, man. If I got a different manager, I would have done this. For company's fucked up, man. I don't know. If we could have done that, the company would be better. Fucking do it. If you really believe in that, talk to the fucking CEO, talk to your fucking person who's in charge of the business, fucking do it. Because if you're that sure that if this is done differently, it's gonna work, it's gonna work. Because if you guys see mostly in the work environment, it's all about bitching and moaning. If we had this, it'll be different. If we had that, it'll be different. Fucking get in and do it. Sure. Don't just sit there and be one of them. Put your hand up and say, I'm gonna solve this. I'm gonna talk to the right person, find a solution for this, and let's get it done. Right? That's point number 6. Number 7, always think twice before stating anything in a corporate or startup environment. Think twice. Because as a kid, you might be over interested, oh my God, why do we do this, why do we do that? And then they question you saying, how did you even come to this conclusion? And then you don't have something to back you up. So before you say something, think twice. Think exactly as to what are the dots that you connected to counter that point. And then say it, because then you'll be clear and they'll be able to understand you a bit better. And you'll be already anticipating their questions. Because if you don't, then you're just putting yourself out there for failure. Think twice before you say anything, so it'll help you out, right? The last point is learn to listen and genuinely try to help your team or the people around you, because listening is important. Everything that you become, empathy, curious, everything all culminates into listening. So listen to people next to you, listen to people around you, listen to your CEO, listen to anybody, listen to your board members, whatever it is. See what is the issue that they're talking about. See what is the current issue. See how you can do something to contribute to it. You can be a fresher in a company, or you can be a CEO elect, or you can be a CEO himself, you can be a board member. Doesn't fucking matter what position you are. Once you understand what's the requirement and you know that, okay, I'm going to put myself to the grind to solve it, just sort it. These kind of things is something Shiv and I have gone through, and these are the hardships we went through. And these are the things we've done to show that, okay, even though I'm just 26 and Shiv's 27, the kind of people we talk to, the kind of way people look at us and respect is because of stuff we're doing. And I really hope people don't think I'm cocky, but I don't give a fuck as well, because there are people who've called Shiv mentors and me mentors, but that's not because of a financial backing or anything else. It's just pure emotional intelligence and empathy. You have that, give the people the right solution that can help them become better in a work environment. And like Shiv said, a point, whatever problems you have with your kids or family, keep it outside. When it comes to work, it's professional, right? Just to modify that, if you can understand why they have the problem with their kids or something and give them a personal solution that can solve it, they will trust you a bit more, or they'll be, okay, fuck, I can trust this person a bit more, now I can get back to work, right? So you have to find a way to solve both issues. So in that way, they're more comfortable and they're better and they're more efficient when it comes to work. So I think all of this culminates into you becoming, even though no matter what your age is, you becoming matured, contributes to all of this. So yeah, that's my point.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I think we're on time.
Beautiful, guys. Hopefully you guys learned a lot. We'll see you guys in episode number 12. Peace out.